18. This week we have a guest over from Australia and the Gold Coast, and his name's Anthony, not Anthony, for you all you Aussies. Anthony Laye, and he is a mentalist. He's a keynote speaker and a behavioural expert. And I don't think he's been on a Love Boat. He's been on a lot of cruise liners. I'm sure he's said this joke before. And an even better thing is he's actually a POM. He's a POM from Devon, so he's from the southwest. So he must like cider and ice creams and pig farming or something. I don't know. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Beautiful. He's like, oh my goodness, what are we doing here? So, Anthony, with that introduction, why don't you tell everyone, how the hell did you end up doing what you're doing? Could you take us on a little but short journey? How did you end up doing what you do now, like a behavioural expert and a keynote speaker, from being a chippy or carpenter running a business in the UK many moons ago?
Yeah, okay. So I would try and take you on a quick journey through the timeline.
Yeah.
So I started my first business back in the UK. So I was 21 years old when I started the first business, and it was a carpentry joinery business. So we made doors, windows, staircases, that kind of thing. And when I initially started the business, it was just me on my own. So I had a workshop, big machinery in it, but initially it was just me, so a sole trader. And most of my potential clients, they were builders of sort of age late 30s onwards. And they would walk into the workshop, they would see me stood there and just assume that I was the apprentice. And they would come up and ask, is the boss around? So I learned very quickly the way that I behaved, the way that I communicated, the way that I acted, the way that I interacted with other people was going to have a huge impact on whether I was going to be successful in business or not. So that started my interest in wanting to understand human behavior. And so I read Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, Cialdini's book on influence, all of the standards.
Yeah.
And so that really generated my interest in human behavior. Now, at the same time, I was also quite introverted in terms of I used to find it awkward going up having a conversation with somebody. So lacked a little bit of social confidence. I say a little bit, lacked a lot of social confidence. So I got into the world of magic as well. So magic for me was a way for me to cheat being interesting. It was a way for me to be able to have a conversation, and without having to have a conversation, instead I could pull out a pack of cards and go choose a card. So those two things live side by side, human behavior and then magic and showmanship. They formed this bond over the years. So the business did really well until it didn't do well. So I had a couple of companies go bust on me, lost the business, wanted a bit of a reset, so moved out to Australia. Now, when I arrived, I didn't really want to get back into carpentry again. It had left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth. I wanted a bit of a change. And I'd done a few little gigs here and there back in the UK for birthday parties doing magic. So I thought, well, I wonder if I can make any money doing magic in Australia. So I got friendly with some people that own Sydney showboats. So I started on Sydney showboats, going up and down the harbour on a Friday and a Saturday night, emceeing the dinner show and then doing a little bit of magic around the tables. That then led into me applying to go on to work on the cruise ships with a show. So we went and did the show on the cruise ships, did really well. I basically got offered, the first ship I didn't do so well. And then I figured out how you meant to.
What was it, the Titanic? No, I'm joking. Sorry.
That was one thing that you were never allowed to say when you were performing on the cruise ships. But so from the cruise ships, I got offered just unlimited dates, which then all of a sudden I found myself in this world of entertainment instead of doing carpentry. And over the years, I started breaking out into the corporate world, doing gala dinners and that kind of thing. And the magic that I was doing, I specialized into mentalism, which is making it look like I can read people's minds. So using trickery to be able to look like I'm influencing and persuading people. And I'll do these corporate gala dinners. And afterwards, the managers and the leaders and the CEOs would come up to me and say, can you teach this to our sales teams? Because this would be amazing if they could read people's minds like this. And so I found myself in this situation where I was like, what I'm doing on stage, that's a show. But the way that I use my skills as a communicator, as a showman, those are things that can be taught to other people. So then I ended up developing into this world of keynote speaking. And now I deliver this keynote that's a mixture of me doing some mentalism pieces, some fun stuff in there, but tied to a message of this is how we can use that in communication. And so that's the evolution of the journey of me being whereabouts I am now.
Wow. So obviously, it's early in the day to talk about cruise ships, and we will not mention the T word anymore. Like, you don't mention the B word when it's near planes or security, because that would be inappropriate. So tell me more about the mentalist and the sort of curiosity you got into human behavior, because I'm much the same. I've always been fascinated by people and why they do what they do.
Yeah. So look, as I say, initially it was like a mask for social awkwardness. I've also always been that kind of person that needs to know the answers. So when I saw magic on TV and I couldn't figure it out, I had to figure it out. I was one of those really annoying kids. The reason why I went more into mentalism, though, as opposed to your rabbit out of a hat, typical kind of sleight of hand magic, was I was fascinated by, you could take highly intelligent people, they would watch you do something to do with mentalism, and they would honestly believe that you were reading their minds. And to me, that was absolutely fascinating. How can you take something that I'm saying to them, this is a trick, I'm not really reading your mind, but they are, even though I've told them that's what I'm doing, they are convinced that I'm actually reading their mind. And so that really fascinated me, and just understanding that sense of wonder is what's really intrigued me. Creating that sense of wonder in somebody's mind. I'm this big believer in, there's not a single person that wakes up saying, I want to have a really crappy day. Everybody wakes up wanting to have a good day, but unfortunately life gets in the way most of the time. So I've always tried to interact with other people in a way where it brings a bit of joy around. And magic and mentalism was a way for me to be able to do that, create this sense of wonder inside people's minds.
Good. So give me an example of a mentalist. Like, what can you, for people that don't understand this category or illusionment or whatever, like a mentalist, give me an example. So, for a layman that might be going, okay, so this guy's like tricking cards and he's not pulling rabbits out of hats. What's it all about?
Yes. So in a typical show, I would pull people up onto the stage. I would get them to maybe think of different things or make choices. And it would either look like I could read the thought that they were having,
yeah,
or I could predict the choices that they would make before they actually made them.
Yeah.
And this would be delivered in this showmanship way of the words that I'm using or the way that I'm interacting with you is causing you to make these different decisions and these different choices. And obviously it's a theatrical show, but there's different elements. So there's some elements of magic where we use a little bit of sleight of hand, maybe. Then there's elements of hypnosis, for example, where maybe I'm using some sort of suggestive language or hypnotic language in order to make people think and do things in a certain way, or trying to find the right person in the audience who might be a little bit more susceptible to influence techniques.
Yeah.
And then mix into that some of the techniques that a lot of the psychics use, like some cold reading or hot reading and that kind of thing. And when you combine all these things together, because humans are meaning-making machines, they then go, okay, well, he's obviously reading people's minds. And even I'm telling them that I'm not. Let's just quickly go to the cruise ships, actually. I remember, naturally, whenever you do a show like that, you're going to get people asking questions afterwards. So I did the show, had a few people asking questions afterwards, and I could see this person stood about 3 people deep. And just by their eye contact, I could tell they had something that they wanted to say. People were asking me questions. While I wasn't revealing what I was doing, I was kind of talking about, well, look, I'm not psychic. There's a methodology to how I do what I do. And this person, their eyebrows kept on going up, so I could see that they wanted to say something. And in the end, I made eye contact with them, raised my eyebrows to give them the cue to kind of come forwards. Now's your time to speak.
Yeah.
And they said, you are psychic, you just won't admit it. I could see that you were getting messages from the other side. I was like, well, I know how I'm doing this, so I know that I'm not. It's just crazy. But it's crazy how people's minds work. And it's fascinating at the same time.
Okay, so let's get into that. So you've got these CEOs, leaders, GMs going, hey, so could you teach my sales team how to do this? Now, There almost means like a public service announcement here, a PSA announcement is, we're using this for good. We're not using this for bad. And this is not about manipulation and magic tricks and mimicry. This is about human behavior, team. Okay, so let's just be super, super clear on that. We're not kind of like trying to make people like turn into a rabbit and bounce over the, the stage and everything else. Tell me about the sales stuff and the translation. Like, what have you seen? What's been useful? Give us some examples of that, maybe.
Okay, so as what I've been sharing from the stage has evolved, and me taking the show side of things and then converting it into lessons that I can teach to other people, one thing that underlines everything that I share when I'm doing a keynote is the whole idea of who you are as a person. So the way that you communicate with yourself, that needs to come first and foremost. One of the big mistakes I think that we see a lot nowadays is people chasing these hacks. These, can you just tell me how to do this so that I can get this person to do that? And so we run around chasing all these things. But if you just were to reflect upon yourself and look at yourself first of all, that's whereabouts you're going to be able to have the most influence, the most power. The stronger ability to be able to just connect with another person is when you understand yourself better. So that inner self-talk. So the way that I see it is there's, first and foremost, there's a way that you talk to yourself. Then we look at the way that you talk to others. Then we look at how you say it. So how you talk to yourself, how you talk to others, and then how you say it. Those three things, kind of in that order as well, is what is important. So everyone worries about communication. And I get this all the time with body language. Mm-hmm. So I do a few routines on stage where I read people's body language. And people are fascinated by body language because they want to be able to tell when somebody's lying, or they want to be able to read the other person. For me, it's, well, hang on a minute. Let's use body language on you first of all, because if you're turning up and your body language is nice and open, if you're showing up in a way that allows you to engage with another person, so raising your eyebrows up to greet the other person before you've even said a word, that's a far better use of body language than trying to read other people. Because if you can create that openness and that connection with another person through the way that you are, through your being, so that you can create this safety in another person, then you don't really need to read the other person's body language so much, because there's going to be comfort. There's going to be natural rapport with that other person. The moment that you start zeroing in on these small things, like looking at people's blink rate, whether their nostrils are flaring, you've removed presence from you being with that person, because now you're trying to spot things.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, ultimately it gets in the way of you actually having a true connection, because more and more you're kind of studying them. And we're talking about congruence and incongruence and everything else. So why don't we unpack, Anthony, around the way that you speak to yourself and how you show up for yourself. Like, unpack that for people a bit more, because some of my listeners, they've chosen that sales has chosen them. They haven't chosen sales. They're driving around. They're getting knocked around by farmers. They're treated like a commodity. Sometimes it's because they sell like a commodity, because they sell the same, they get treated the same. But what are some of the lessons that we check? How do you manage talking to yourself so you turn up and you show up, and your presence and your aura, or your mana, as we call it down here in NZ? Like, how do you go about it? Like, what is it? And why is it so important that we master that first? Because I think we understand that until you can show up for yourself and tune into yourself, you can't tune into others, right? So tell us about that.
Okay, let me unpack this.
Please.
And what I'll share from all the one-on-one coaching that I've done, from all the speaking on the stage that I've done, this concept is something that's resonated with every single person. If I've done one-on-one coaching with somebody and after 6 months I say, what's been the most powerful for you? It's all based around this tool. Now, the challenge that I have with this is it's a very simple concept. And because of its simplicity, a lot of people, they overlook it.
They're skeptical because it's so simple, it can't be true. Yeah.
And a big part of this is because the ego gets in the way. So someone gives us a really simple solution to a problem that we have. We then sit there and go, if it was that easy, I would have done it ages ago. So then the ego gets in the way. It goes, so whatever you do, don't try it, because if you get proven wrong, you have just pretty much admitted internally that you're stupid, because you should have just done that in the first place. So I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to put blinkers on. I'm going to carry on trying to find the complicated solution instead, because that's going to make me look clever, because I solved my problem through this really complex thing. So just for all the listeners, as I explain this, if you hear that voice starting to come up, I want you to just press a mute button for a second to your inner dialogue, because what I found is that the things that cause the biggest shift, they're normally very simple. That's not to say that your problems aren't complicated. Yes, your problems are complicated. Your challenges, there's a lot of moving parts. The solutions can quite often be quite simple. So going quickly back to the business that I had when I was 21, as I say, did amazing until it didn't. So after 5 years, I had two companies, two of my really big clients go bust on me for quite a lot of money. And being a small business sole trader, it put a huge stretch on the business. I had 7 people on the team at that point in time. I ended up in this place where cash flow was so strapped that I eat every single week. It was, do I pay the team on time this week, or do I buy more materials so that we can carry on working? So this business that I'd created was suddenly under a lot of stress. I was under a lot of stress. I invested my heart and soul, my passion into creating this business, and I was watching it just falling apart around me. And I just saw the world through a very negative lens. It felt like the whole world was conspiring to make my business fail, that I had it bad, everybody else was doing all right, and life was really bad for me. And what I didn't realize, though, at this point in time was how that was affecting me as a person, who I was being to other people. Because I was running on autopilot. My brain had gone into survival mode. It was just, we need to sort this out. Like, how are we going to sort this out? So I became very angry. I became a horrible person to be around. I'd bite people's heads off. I lost all of the fun. I'm naturally quite a fun person. I'd lost all the fun. And it wasn't until a friend sat me down one night, we'd been out for a few drinks, and she said, Anthony, can I be really honest with you? And if anybody ever says that, you never go, no, don't be honest. You go, yeah, come on, be honest.
Set me straight. Yeah. Sounds like a good friend, by the way.
Yeah, really, really good friend. And she said, and it's a sentence that I'll never forget, Anthony, you're a really nice guy, but you are being so negative, nobody wants to be around you anymore. I had no idea. I was in survival mode. My brain was just trying to survive. And in that moment, she held up a mirror and I got to see myself for exactly who I was being. And in that moment, something rewired, that a switch was flicked inside my brain that made me realize that it was down to me. I had to choose how I was turning up. Yeah. Nobody was going to come and save me. Yeah. But if I was going to get myself out of this place that I was in, because I was in a pretty dark place, I hated life. But the only way I was going to get out of it was to work out the relationship that I had with myself. So I started asking myself one question from that point in time, one question. And to this day, even before we jumped on this podcast, I asked myself this question. And this is where it gets really simple, but I'll unpack it a little bit more for you. But the question is this: how should I be turning up? That one question, what it does is it brings a lot of self-awareness around. So throughout the day, you can go through different situations. You could meet with different people. So like you're mentioning before about how you got people that they're out in rural places, they're treated like a commodity, and that weighs upon you. It makes you feel defeated. It makes you feel flat. Then occasionally you might get the odd win, and all of a sudden you puff your chest up, you feel good again. But it's not very long before life comes along and pulls you back down. Maybe then you start to notice more things that are going on because you're in this sort of negative loop, and then you end up in this spiral going down. But by asking yourself this question of how should I be turning up, what it does is it forces you to take a look internally and go, okay, the next interaction that I have. So before I jumped on the podcast, so this morning I'd been out and done a few bits and pieces. So I went out for a quick surf this morning, came back, then had to do some emails, and I had probably about 20 minutes before this, I did a quick call, and it wasn't the best call. The person was trying to change some details around with the dates, and I'd already booked in my flights for the particular event. So I was feeling a little bit afterwards, like, come on.
We've had that. Yep.
Yeah. Now, if I hadn't asked myself the question, how should I be turning up, before we jumped on together, then I could have pulled some of that stress in with me to this. And then we could have had a conversation and you might have gone, do you know what? He was a little bit edgy, Anthony was. He came across, I got a bit of a bad vibe from him. Now, it might not, I like to think of myself as a particularly nice guy, but if I'd brought in that stress from that phone call, it would have created that energy between you and I where maybe we wouldn't have connected so well. Mm-hmm. So by asking that question, how should I be turning up? It just forces you to go inwards and just go, okay, what's happened throughout the day? What's on my mind that I need to deal with? Maybe I need to shake it off. Now, this is not to go into the world of toxic positivity and pretend that nothing's wrong, but it's to go, okay, do you know what? If a staircase is 0 to 10, I'm at a 3 at the moment.
Yeah.
What is it that I need to do to get to just a 4 or a 5? Yeah. Don't try and jump up to 10 because that's where it gets hard. That's where it's like, how am I meant to feel like that when I feel like this right now?
Yeah.
But what's 1 or 2 small things that you can do to just move you 1 or 2 up the staircase run so that you start to communicate better with yourself?
Yeah.
So this question, how should I be turning up? I've shared this with all of my clients and I get them to put it on a Post-it note wherever they spend a lot of time. So if it's somebody that does a lot of Zoom calls, mm-hmm. they put it on their computer.
Yeah.
If it's somebody that's out in the car a lot, I get them to just put it on their visor so that they just flip it down. How should I be turning up? So it's that constant reminder, because awareness is like the steering wheel for change. We think, personal development, I need to start doing this. The moment that we think I need to start doing this, it feels like pressure. It's like, I've got to do this thing. It becomes a chore. But if we just bring awareness on its own as a byproduct creates change. So I remember there was a guy that I was working with and really introverted, worked in computer IT. So just imagine your typical person that works in computer IT on the computer all day. So posture, really bad posture, hunched over all the time, and was having a few social problems and wanted to be able to network better so that he could move up in his career. All we did was Post-it notes are like my secret weapon for brainwashing yourself in a positive way, brainwashing in a positive way. We got him to put Post-it notes around all the doorways in his house and like on his kitchen cupboards and that kind of thing. And all it said was one word, and that was posture. And over the space of about 3 weeks, every time he walked through a doorway, he had to look up at the Post-it note, which automatically adjusted his posture. Anytime he went to the cupboards, we even got him to put one in his car. So when he sat down in his car seat, the visor, it would make him adjust himself in his seat. I jumped on a coaching call with him after about 3 weeks. He showed up on the coaching call on Zoom completely differently. He had a different energy in his face, and it's because he had changed his physiology. But we'd done it purely through awareness.
Yeah, I love that. I love your quote, awareness is the steering wheel to growth. I've always said that awareness will unlock you to the next level.
Yeah.
And then your good friend holding that mirror up saying, Anthony, you're a great guy, but you're really negative and a lot of people don't want to be around you. That's what a good friend says. And I can't remember the quote. I think it was John Lennon said, honesty won't get you a lot of friends, but it'll get you the right friends. And they were very, very honest with you, or whatever the quote was. So the physiological, we're not talking necessarily power poses, but how you show up for yourself, I think is a great reset question. I think it's great in sales because, you had that call, and I've had it too, where people renege or they're changing and say, hey, I've locked you in. I've got opportunity cost here and, cost of earning. I need to be compensated for, I've been in those conversations too. And I think it's great that you've turned up because hey, well, it's like a game of golf or a tennis shot. You remember the Roger Federer, he has the commencement speech and he says, how many games did I win? Well, basically I won 82% win rate, but I only won 52% of my shots. But his ability to reset between the shots was what differentiated him from the rest. So that reset button is really good. So you resetted from this funk with the joinery business. You said, right, I need to be able to rewire my brain. So we talked about yourself, and let's talk about communication. First of all, I agree with you fundamentally. I always say in my training, the first sale is always to yourself. That's not believing in the product, but believing in yourself, because you are the most important part of the sales process, right? Because farmers buy into other people before any brand or any business. So when you talk about effective communication, we talked about yourself. What about when you're talking to others? Do you want to unlock that a bit, and then we can get to the brain stuff, perhaps?
Yeah, in actual fact, we might bring the brain stuff into this part here. So the communication with yourself. The reason why this is so important is because you need to be aware of how you are showing up at any point in time. Because when it comes to communicating with other people, people's brains, they're constantly scanning the environment. They're looking for threats, or they're looking for value. That's pretty much what the brain is trying to do. It's either going to go, is there something valuable over there that I can get? But threats will override everything.
Correct.
So the closer you can, I know some people won't be listening. Some people
there'll be feeds on YouTube, and they can see the video.
Okay, so
Anthony's getting something from his magic tricks. He's got something. What's he got?
I got half a brain. Showing us a brain. Awesome. So many people, they focus on what they're going to say when it comes to communication. So whether that's a sales conversation or whatever, but they focus on the words that they're going to say. Yeah. The closer you can get to the brainstem, so the deeper into the brain that you can go, the more natural influence you will have. So the brainstem here. There's a reticular activating system inside there, and that's constantly looking for threats and value. So when it senses a threat, it then fires up the amygdala. So if you go into a situation and you're a little bit stressed out, this is the reason why we've got to be in touch with ourselves first of all. If you go into a situation and you're a little bit stressed out, the other person's RAS is going to feel that. They're going to go, do you know what? They're a little bit edgy. Or if you walk straight in and you go straight into, so if you come across as too salesy, that brain just goes, hang on a minute, this is a threat. This person's about to try and take something from me. So the brain goes into reactance. It fires up the amygdala, fear starts to kick in, which then shuts down the neocortex so people don't think properly, and they go into survival mode instead.
Yeah, that's right.
So our ability to be able to build trust as quickly as possible, so to create safety for the other person as quickly as possible, is what is so important when it comes to communication. So this is before you've even said a word. So the energy that you turn up with, it's a little bit woo-woo, but the energy that you turn up with.
I would just like to say energy transference and emotional contagion is definitely what we're talking about here. You don't even need woo-woo to understand it. People pick up on your vibe.
100%. One of the really big things with me being on stage and presenting is I can feel my energy infiltrate an audience. If I'm on just after lunch and they've just had food, their body's now processing the food, they're about to have that sugar slump. If I come on stage with lots of energy, you can see the audience start to wake up because of my energy. So that how we're showing up, it's really going straight into the brainstem of the other person. So this is instincts. So you need to. So this is the reason why the question of how should I be showing up is so important, is because you need to think about that. What kind of vibe are you giving out to the other person? Are you creating a vibe whereabouts you create safety for the other person? Or is their brain starting to go, hang on a minute, this person could be, they could be about to try and sell me something. They could be trying to take something from me.
Yeah, totally. And this is why I say to, just on that, Anthony, so I always say to my students, you never say to a farmer, because obviously they will sell to farmers and growers all around the world, you never say, I'm not here to sell you anything, because the brain knows that's a lie. You are there to sell them something. So I'd rather disarm the prospect and say, well, I'd love to sell you something, but obviously I don't really want to sell you something that's not going to work for you, because it's not going to work for me. So rather than me focusing on me, should we focus on you? Tell me more about your farming system and what you're doing currently. And away we go, because there's just things that you say or linguistic markers that are no good. And I really like what you talked about around the RAS, the articulation system, and the brainstem, because they are survival scripts. So what Anthony's saying here, guys, is if you want to influence and persuade people, ethically and morally here, focus on the biological brain, the brainstem, because that is the survival scripts, and they're the most powerful scripts that the brain runs in terms of value or threat as a predictive pattern recognition machine. Anthony, tell me more about, then communicating with others. This whole, because you and I haven't spoken before, but you are bang on the money, because we talk about non-assumptive selling and buyer safety all day long. But tell me more around communicating with others, that safety aspect and the scripts that the brain runs, and how you maybe pattern interrupt those scripts. Because you would do that on stage, wouldn't you?
So before you've even opened your mouth and said a word, that person's brain is already scanning you, assessing you, working out if you're so it's kind of initially thinking, is this person a friend? Are they an enemy? Or are they just another person? Now, most of the time, you're going to be just another person. And unless you're giving off really bad vibes, then you're going to the enemy. If you get introduced to somebody, then you can leapfrog straight into that, I suppose, friend category.
Yeah.
But initially, you're going to be seen as just another person. So what is it that we then do? How can we then move from, okay, just another person? I can see that you're not a threat. So I'll give you the benefit of a doubt for the moment. Open body language. The way that we're showing up with our body language, is it big, chaotic body language that's out of control? Because what that's going to do is that's going to send the survival brain down again. So we want open body language. We want to be moving slowly. We want to be making good eye contact. We want to think about composure. There's a concept which I often talk about, and this isn't mine. This was taught to me by my mentor, Chase Hughes. And it's the idea of a pendulum.
Yeah, we know. Yeah, I know Chase Hughes very well. Yeah.
Oh, you do? Oh, fantastic. Fantastic.
I've been doing his program. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. So you would probably know then about the idea of the pendulum.
No, I don't. So I have
so Chase has got this idea of composure and the pendulum. So my initial question of how should I be turning up, this is now evolved and it's come into a much bigger thing. And part of this has come from Chase Hughes. And it's the idea that hanging in the center, so the pendulum hanging in the center, that's composure. When we lead, when we interact, when we communicate from a place of composure, we're able to build trust quickly. We're able to connect quickly with other people. Ourselves, we're able to make better decisions because we're not doing it from an emotional place. So everything flows better from this place of composure. But life doesn't want us to stay in composure. It wants to flip us one way or the other. So you've got composure in the middle. One side, you've got collapse. So this is whereabouts maybe you've been out all day and you haven't had any luck and the weight of the world is on your shoulders. It just feels like, this is all just too heavy for me. So when I'm talking about this, I like to think of this as the Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah,
Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, just very sort of downbeat the entire time. Ugh. Now, when we interact with people, and you will have interacted with people like this before, it feels like energy is being sucked out of you.
Energy drainers. I know a few of those guys, and I stay the hell away from them.
Yeah, so energy drain, and you've said it exactly there. You stay the hell away from them because your brain sees that as a threat. They're going to take energy away from you. They're going to pull you into this place where actually you don't want to be. So you've got collapse on one side of the pendulum. Then on the other side, you've then got posturing, which is where people puff their chest up. They try to overprove. This is the salespeople that have been taught, this is how you be confident. And then they go in with all this fake bravado, this fake confidence. If your confidence ever makes somebody else feel inferior or feel like they're being dominated, that is not confidence. That is posturing. Real confidence breeds confidence in another person.
Yes.
So you've got collapse over this side. You've got posturing over here. So puffing your chest up, trying to prove. It's kind of quite aggressive. So think
like David Brent from The Office.
Yeah. I've never put it as to any of the Office characters before. I normally go with these two cartoon characters of Eeyore.
You mean Tigger and Eeyore? Yeah.
No, so I go Tasmanian Devil on the
Tasmanian Devil, even better. Yeah.
So crazy, like
yeah. Just too much and unpredictable because the brain craves certainty, right? It loves predictability. Yeah.
Exactly. So if you've got Tasmanian Devil over here, when you ask yourself that question of how should I be turning up, just think, this other person now that I'm about to interact with, how are they perceiving me? Are they seeing an Eeyore kind of person that they're going to want to get away from? Or are they seeing this crazy Tasmanian Devil kind of person? Because if that's what they're seeing, they're going to put up some guards. They're going to go, whoa, you're a little bit too much for me. You're a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
So slowness of movement is a really good way to bring our composure down. Using a steady gaze. So if you think about somebody who's in a place of fear, their eyes are darting around all over the place.
Yeah.
So if you're with a client, you're with a customer, even in your personal life as well, if you're just with somebody and your eyes are shifting around all over the place, you're sending out fear signals to the other person. So then their brain's going to fire up and just go, something's wrong.
Yeah, and if they're sitting behind the door of a restaurant, it's even worse.
Yeah.
because they're like, who's coming through that door? I can't see it. I can't see it. So this is really interesting because obviously you've had some very, very good training from Chase, and he's world
Yeah.
class at what he does. The one thing I learned, and I think this is just a really good reminder for everyone, he talks about confidence is clean. And he actually talks about confidence as being more comfortable than anyone else in the room. And that's not arrogance, it's a comfortable, that you're comfortable being in that room. And I think also, if your confidence, as you said, is making others feel uncomfortable in your presence, that's not confidence.
No.
And that is not going to get you a good place in sales, because I'll give you an example. Veterinarians, agronomists, who we love on this show, and we've trained lots of, me personally, they don't like selling because it violates their sense of self. Yeah. And so they go, oh, well, selling's below me. I'm not going to do it. So I'm going to go into feature creature mode, and I'm going to go technical show up, throw up. I'm going to verbally vomit all over my farmer. And the farmer goes, hold on, you are too pious and too righteousness in your technical ability. So you haven't even asked me any questions about me. So I don't feel safe with you. So I'm going to shut down on my amygdalas. We just shut shop. You're going to have a short, sharp, very superficial conversation.
Yeah. So with confidence is something that's fascinated me for years. As somebody who used to have really low confidence, to then doing the magic, going on stage, forcing, and for a while, I was one of those people that forced confidence. I would fake it the entire time. Once you realize that confidence isn't about adding more stuff onto you. So this is another one of the traps that so many people are falling into is, I'm going to go on YouTube and I'm going to look up all the confidence hacks. Real confidence comes from understanding yourself. And so the way that I like to say this when I'm up on stage is, every single person in the audience, they are naturally confident. They are naturally confident, but life has taught them to be unconfident. And you can prove this because you take any person at all, when they were 4 or 5 years old, they had no issue standing naked on a beach, singing their little heart out with everybody looking at them. But now, I'm not saying that we need to start standing around naked on the beach singing.
Some beaches in Cornwall probably do that.
maybe a bit cold over there. But
it's got to be the right month.
But over time, we have these expectations put on us. So at school, we get told to sit on our hands, don't speak up, be quiet, this, that, and the other. Parents say, don't do this, you're going to make a fool of yourself. So our confidence starts to get layers put on it. So real confidence is about understanding what those layers are and becoming more self-aware so that you become comfortable with yourself. And yes, Chase talks about being the most comfortable person in the room. This does not involve hierarchy or status. The moment you think about hierarchy and status, you're now comparing other people. It's just about how comfortable can you just be in the presence of other people in the room, in just being who you are. So I remember, so as I say, for a while I was a performer on stage, I was also a performer of confidence. I was faking confidence for a long time. I'll be backstage, my hands would be shaking because I was so worried about how I was going to be perceived by the audience, about I might get a trick wrong, I might forget what I was going to say. So I made everything about me. By having that mindset, I made it all about me. And I remember being backstage one night, and the stagehand was off to my left-hand side. And for some reason, I just thought, do you know what? It's not about me. It's about the audience. And I went out there and I did not care if things went wrong. I did not care about how I was perceived. I went out there and I allowed myself to be truly me. And something weird happened that night. The audience reacted to me differently. Afterwards, more people came up and spoke to me. The conversations that I had while I was moving around on the cruise ship were completely different. People, they connected better because even though people didn't know it was fake confidence, they could feel it. But the moment I just allowed myself to just be me and I was comfortable, I just went out on stage and I just had fun. Everything changed. And now, whenever I feel myself getting nervous, I always remind myself of that moment and just give myself the permission to be me.
Yeah. And I love that. I just want to jump in and sort of say that I don't probably get on stage and do anything that you do, but I have to do a few speeches, and I was over in Wagga last week with New South Wales government talking to a bunch of agri-tech guys. And I think when you're nervous and you're worrying about you, you're consumed with you. And I always say you need to serve your audience, never sell to your audience, serve your audience. So it's flipping a switch, like you're putting the focus on you. Well, also you could reframe nervousness as actually preparation, your body getting ready to help you perform. Even if it's at a discussion group or a field day or a demo day or whatever you're doing, or a sales pitch or corporate procurement, or you're in with a big retailer that you wanted to knock the doors down on. But I think you need to focus on them and what you can give them. And then that takes the attention away from you. And then you free flow. And then you are your person. And you're not consumed about you. You're not concerned about you. You're more concerned about them. And I think that's a really good, and I don't want to call it a hack, but it's more a reframe. And I think that's a really, really good little tool.
Yeah. So I'm not the biggest fan of the word hack. However, what I say, because we are obsessed with hacks. We go searching on the internet.
We want instant gratification because we want it now. We want the pill, not the vitamin.
Yeah. What I would say is, okay, go and look for the hacks. But what you want to be aiming for is to turn those hacks into part of who you are. So initially, they're going to be things that maybe you put on. They're going to be little things that you do so that you feel more confident in the moment. But don't rely on it just being that thing that you do when you need it. Just make it part of who you are.
Yeah.
So that in the end,
your identity, who you actually are. Yeah.
Yeah. And this comes down again to that initial thing of who you are is more important than what you say.
Correct. Very, very. Can you say that again? Because I think it's very important.
So who you are is more important than what you say.
Because, it's that famous quote. It's like, you speak so loudly, I can't hear what you say.
Yeah, I forgot about that quote. I love that one. If I was to put this into real world, you'll have all experienced this, where you've been with somebody, the words that are coming out of their mouth are exactly the right words, but something feels off. Something doesn't feel right. Yeah. And you're thinking, but they're saying all of the right things, but I still don't like what they're saying. And it's because of the vibe that you are getting from them. So that intuition, that gut feeling that we get, this is because our brain is designed to pick up on these things because it needs to survive.
Yeah. Yeah. And people don't understand that. I mean, I can't talk about the gut brain axis and everything else, but usually there's an instinct that people are, and sometimes we call it blemish framing. People are so polished. What they do is then told, oh, you've got to drop a pen or something to show that you're human. I just think it's a hack. It's yucky. It's like, just be you, because there's only one of you, so you do you. And if people don't like you, so what? So, I mean, again, not everyone's going to be able to do what you do and get up on stage and do the amazing things you do. But when you're showing up, show them who you are, and they will sense that, they will feel that, because, again, we're feeling machines that think. We're not thinking machines that feel. People feel it, they sense it, and I think it's not woo-woo. It's just like you are giving out a vibe or a frequency, and people can tell if it's off. And we instinctually are tuned in, because as cavemen and cavewomen, we couldn't communicate, so we had to rely on our instinct and the non-verbal, and that's why it's so dominant in language. We've got our non-verbal, we've got our paraverbal, and then we've got our verbal, right? So, Anthony, this is awesome. So then, we talked about the third bit, saying it, and you just said something very valuable. It's not what you say; it's how you say it. I think I put it already, but it's not the words you say; it's how you say the words. Let's talk about the say it part, because I'm really interested in this as well. Let's open that one up.
So the say it bit is. This is the bit that I kind of put down to the charisma side of things. This is kind of like the showmanship side of things. So you've now figured out who you are. You've got a good relationship with you. Yeah, awesome. You've figured out how to speak to how to create a sense of safety in the other person. The next part is the words that are coming out of your mouth. How do we bring them to life? So without unpacking this too much, think about the way that you use your voice, the tone that you use, the speed in which you speak. If you're speaking monotone the entire time, people's brains, if you're speaking monotone, because the brain is always trying to save energy, it's trying to predict what's going to happen next.
It will tune out.
Yeah.
It only detects difference. Yeah.
So if you speak really monotone, the brain goes, okay, I can predict what's going to happen next, so now I can start to tune out. So by using our voice differently, so So when we want to say something exciting, we speed up ever so slightly. But then when we want to make something land, we slow it down. So we're creating this kind of wave of communication, so that you're constantly creating contrast in how you communicate. And so the way that we use our voice has a huge impact on the way that those words are received. But then in addition to that, there's also the gestures that we use as well. So the way that we use our body. And I've worked with a few people that have said, I'm really monotone. But if you look at them, they're also monotone in that their body is very still. So voice and body, those two things then have to come together to bring what we're saying to life, so that people feel the words as we're saying them, so that we don't. So if I was to put this into like an Instagram or Twitter kind of one phrase.
Or a post-it.
Or a post-it. You're exactly right. You're on my page here. It would be, don't just say the words, be the words.
Good.
Yeah, don't just say the words, be the words. So many people, they think about what they're going to say, but they never think about how they're going to say it.
So good. Yeah.
And this,
don't say the words, be the words.
Be the words, yeah.
Can you give us a couple of examples?
I mean, imagine if you were talking to either your partner or your kid, and you just went, "Yeah, I love you." Like it doesn't have the feeling behind it. If you go, "I love you," it's got a completely different feeling to it. And a big part of this, though, comes from us allowing ourselves to just be us. If you're talking about something exciting, then be excited about it. If you're really passionate about something, then be passionate about it. Like if you were to tell somebody a bit of a, like, this is a deal that I shouldn't really share, like you would, like almost like conspiracy kind of, like you'd almost lean in and whisper it to them. You can create, like, this messes around with the neurochemistry inside people's minds, and they start to feel the words that you're saying, and like you're going way deeper into the brain by doing this.
Yeah, and so there's obviously very limited time that we've got, but I think key thing is really also making sure, and I've noticed you're doing this purposely, you will slow yourself down and you'll let your lines land. And there's a couple of things that you picked up from Chase Hughes, who I think we should all follow. He's terrific at what he does.
100%.
He says, slow your movements down. So I've met people in life, Anthony, where I've looked at them and they've been heroes of mine or people I admire. And they walk into a room, Anthony, and I watch them and I didn't know what they're doing, but until Chase explained it, until you have as well and reminded me, it's like they move slowly.
Yeah.
They don't rush, they don't run. Almost the room is looking at them, and they wait by the door frame and they don't move until they're very conscious how they move. And all these things, all these patterns that Anthony's teaching you guys, they're all signals that you're sending. Are you friend? Are you foe? Can you be trusted? And then, yes, status and hierarchy. As soon as you start thinking about status and hierarchy, then you're in trouble, because you're focused on status and hierarchy, as Anthony says. But I think what we covered here is, it's very important the way that you talk to yourself. I often say that you should talk to yourself like your best friend. And so when I stub my toe, I will call myself something that my best friend wouldn't call me. Probably based on my mates, they probably would. But anyway, I need to change my mates. And then the way that you talk to others and signaling safety and non-assumption in our world, and then the way in which you say it. Yeah. Now, Anthony, I always ask my guests, if you have one piece of advice that you could only give someone around what you teach and train in your keynotes, in your private training, in your coaching, all those good things that you do, what would be the one piece of advice you could give them in terms of improving their communication effectiveness and or maybe their confidence? But I know those are two questions, so I'm being a bit cheeky and rolling two into one.
Okay. One of the things that I do with all the clients that I've worked with is, and this has evolved over time, so it's kind of a bit of a Chase thing as well. He's been a huge influence on a lot of the coaching that I do. That question of how should I be turning up, I would get somebody to ask themselves that question. Now, what I started doing is that question of how should I be turning up, I also then monitor my composure. So I rate myself on my composure on a daily basis. So I journal every single day. I don't have necessarily a certain way of journaling, my journal. Sometimes it might just be a couple of sentences. Other times it might be a little bit more.
But I will always reflection. A forced reflection. There's a forced reflection. Yeah, good.
So I will monitor my composure. Then when it comes to confidence, whenever you find yourself holding back, whenever that inner voice kicks in and makes you doubt yourself, starts to speak to you in a way that you don't want to speak to, what I do is I write down exactly what it's saying to me, and I will go into a conversation with myself inside my journal around whereabouts does that limiting belief come from? Why is that limiting belief come up? Why am I holding myself back? So that I get to really understand. So I create so much awareness around the internal dialogue that's going on, that awareness organically creates a lot of change.
I love that. I love that. You've trained your brain, sir. You've trained your brain. And you had to, because obviously you talked about the joinery business.
Yeah.
And then that sense of getting out of that rut, the bankruptcies, the company's going rogue on you, so you couldn't make salary, and all been pretty close there a few times that have run businesses. You've literally rewired your brain, and then obviously you've got to have some big kahunas to go up on stage and do what you do for someone that has self-admitted that they really struggle with confidence, and it was very fake for a long time.
Yeah. And I could go and talk about this topic for ages.
Oh, I bet you could.
The one thing that I would, there's two more things that I really want to drive in. And that is, one is that your brain is designed to keep you safe. So it looks for what's familiar. Even if the unfamiliar isn't serving you in a good way, because it knows, because it can predict the outcome of that, it will go with that. Even if it isn't good for you, it will choose that.
Yep.
If you can get used to that, hearing that internal dialogue and then overriding it, saying, do you know what? No, I'm in charge today. Correct. So this is one of the reasons why I started doing cold therapy. You go to get an ice bath, your brain is going, don't get in there, don't get in there, don't get in there.
Yeah.
So by getting in the ice bath, you override. You say, I'm in charge today. Yeah. I'm actually going to take control.
Because most people try, and this is where we're really hitting gold, is for me, I went for a run before because I've had a pretty heavy schedule and you saw me turning up in a sweaty mess. I had a cold shower before, obviously wanted to cool myself down, but my brain was going, I don't want to go in that cold shower. And it was warm and I was sweating hot and I need it. But it was a shock. And what you do is you're overriding your brain. And that is very, very good because you're in control. Because most people, I think, run through life almost sleepwalking and their brains are on autopilot and they go to the familiar. Even addicts and counselling and everything else, they'll still go to the familiar, even though that familiar is dangerous and bad for them. And so you're overriding your brain and you're saying, I'm in charge and I'm driving the car. So I always say to my own kids, who runs your brain? Who's running the brain? I'm in charge. I'm the boss. And I think it's fascinating that you're bringing awareness, which is a massive, massive word from this podcast, is awareness is that you say the steering wheel to growth. I say, it's the gateway to growth to the next level. Is if you can't name it and you can't internalize it and then using your journaling, then you can't manage it because you're not measuring it. But if you're not aware, man, life can be pretty rough, right?
And that kind of brings us back full circle into that one question: how should I be turning up?
Yeah, very good. Anthony, you've turned up very well. Where do people find you? Where's the best way to connect with you?
Best way is either if you want to be professional, LinkedIn. I'm active on there, or Instagram. Instagram is Anthony Laye Speaks. So there's lots of little short videos that I put up.
Brilliant. And you've got a website as well. And then if people want to talk to you about keynotes and confidence speaking and anything else, they can go there too, correct?
Yeah, all on the website. And then I run about every 6 weeks. I run a little online masterclass, and the details of that will also be, I think, if you go to LinkedIn, there's a featured post that we can find about the next masterclass.
Perfect. We will get those all in the show notes. Sir, thank you so much for your generosity. I've loved the way you've shown up, your energy. You've reminded me so much around the brain, the RAS, the brainstem, the vagus nerve, the amygdala, the limbic, the prefrontal. And I think just showing that everyone can master their own mind.
Yep. And
you've got to train your brain like a muscle. And like neurons that fire together, wire together, and all those good things. And we loved having you on the show.
Thanks very much. I appreciate being here.